Hello and welcome to a quick demonstration on how to create a classic tween using Adobe Flash. So we're going to launch Flash and you should get a pop-up panel that looks something similar to this, and you're going to choose ActionScript 3.0. A couple things to note here. These are your basic tools as well as some properties. This is called your stage. You can change the color of your stage over here at the side. I'll leave it as white. Down here is your timeline. And you can change the way that your panels look by changing the workspace. So I have it set to Essentials right now, so if you set it to Essentials, yours should look similar. Some people prefer to use the Animator view, which has all the same tools, they're just in different places. I'm not 100% familiar with that, so I'm going to go back to the Essentials. So a couple of tools here. First of all, you have a pencil tool. When you select the pencil tool, it gives you some options. So you can straighten lines, so that if you're not very good at drawing straight lines, it will straighten those out for you. If you want smooth lines, you can change it to smooth. And if you want exactly the way that you're drawing, you can use the ink version. Okay. There's also a paintbrush tool. To change the size of the paintbrush, you can use the square brackets beside the letter P, with the right one making the brush bigger and the left one making the brush smaller. You can see here that there's a different color for the pencil and for the fill, which is also the paint. So I'm just going to start off here by drawing a basic scene to start off with. I would always suggest drawing things on separate layers, so this will be my background. We'll just start off with something simple. You can also use custom built-in shapes, which can make your job a little bit easier if you want to. So if I want a green shape with a black outline, I can use these settings. I'm going to draw it so that I have a little bit more power over what it is that I do, and you can see some other options here. So here's my background. It doesn't matter if you go outside the white lines. Only what's on the white square will show up when you actually animate or run the movie. Now I'm going to take my paint bucket, and again the paint bucket has some options available to it. It will close any small gaps that you have in your drawing. So if I have it set to don't close small gaps, it may not fill. For example, if I take my eraser and just put a small gap in here, and I take my paint bucket and try to fill, it won't let me because the shape is not closed off. But if I change this to maybe large gaps, again it's still a little bit too large to close off, so I'll just leave a little bit of a gap there, and it's closed that in very nicely. So there is my background for my first scene. Maybe I'll add some objects, and again you can put these on separate layers if you want to. This, create a new layer here. Maybe I'll make a tree. More layers are better than less. Here is my basic tree. And I will again fill that in. Let's maybe pick a different green, and maybe give the trunk a different color as well. There we go. When you're done with your layers, always lock them. If you want to turn them off, you can use this panel to turn them off, and this will lock it so that it cannot be edited. Would you like to unlock and show the layer? No. Okay, so there I have my basic background. Now I'm going to create an object. I'm just going to create a simple object here. So create a new layer, and I'm going to create a ball. I'll take my pencil tool, and that's awful. There's my ball, even though it's not very round. If you don't want to use that, you can always use your oval. So there is the ball. I'll give it a different color. And one thing to point out is if you click on it to move it, it will leave the outline behind unless you double click so that both are selected. Then it will move as a single object. Okay? Now, the other thing to note is if I want to paint some stuff on it, I can actually paint some stuff on it and give it a different color. Take my paintbrush, and you can change this so that it paints the selection only. So that if I paint, it won't go over top. It'll just paint in that fill. So there's my basic ball. Now the first thing to do with the classic tween is, I'm just going to turn these off so you don't get distracted, is to take your selection tool, draw a box around the ball, and what you want to do is you want to actually convert it to a symbol. The way you do that is modify, convert to symbol. Give it a meaningful name. You can leave it as a graphic. You can also change it to a movie or a button, but we're going to leave it as a graphic for today. This will be ball. Click OK. And it's now over here in our library. We can see that that ball is there. Here's the properties of it. And I can drag as many instances of that ball out to the canvas as I want if I need extra. Now you'll notice that as soon as I converted it to a symbol, it has a blue box around it telling me that it is a symbol. And if I grab a paint bucket and try to paint on it, it doesn't allow me to anymore. However, if you do want to change aspects of the object, you'll notice that right now you're on scene 1. But if you double click on an object, it takes you scene 1, object ball. I can now change aspects of the ball color if I want to. But I'm not going to do that. And to get back out to the scene, I simply click back on scene and it takes me out. So there's everything I need. The first thing to do is to pick a starting place for your object. So I put this where I originally wanted to start. So I'm going to have it start just outside the screen here. And I'm just going to have it roll to center stage here. The way I do that is I need to use these things called frames on my timeline at the bottom. For example, if I go to keyframe 45, if I control click, I'm going to insert a keyframe, meaning that a key event is going to happen at that time. If I was to insert a simple frame, it would look the same, except you'll notice here that there's a little square. That's not what I want. So I'm going to back that up, and I'm going to control click and insert a keyframe, and you'll notice that it puts this little black dot, similar to the very first one. So now what I can do is move this object to where I want it to end up, and you'll notice below here the scene did not carry over. So what I need to do is control click, and because nothing important is happening with the tree or the background, it's not really moving, I'm just going to insert a frame just to carry that over. I'll do the same here, insert frame to carry that over. So now you can see that my first instance, the ball starts there. My last instance, it's moved over to here. What I'm now going to do is somewhere in between, I'm going to control click, and I'm going to create a classic tween. So what that does is it moves the object from one place to the next. So that if I hit play at the bottom, it simply moves along. Now if I look at the properties of this, and I click somewhere in the middle, what I can do is I can cause this thing to rotate. And I can have it rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. And I tell it how many times I want it to rotate by the time it moves from frame 1 to frame 45. I'll set it to 10 is probably a little too much. I'll just go with 2. So now if I actually play it, I can see that it rotates twice from here to here. The other thing you can do is have it ease in or out. So if I have it ease in, it goes fast, then it starts to slow down. If I change the ease, hold and push down so that it's negative 100, it will start off and slowly gain speed. So you have those two options available to you. I'll turn that back to starting off fast and then slowing down. So it looks like it's kind of slowing down. Now the next thing you might want to do is create a second or third or multiple scenes. And the way you can do that is you can insert a new scene. So here's a new blank scene, and I'm just going to have this from a different perspective to advance my story. So I'm going to bring an instance of the ball from the library out to the screen here. I'll have it start there. I'll insert a keyframe, and what I'll do here is I'll simply resize the object, and again I will control click in the middle and create a classic tween. So you can see it getting larger, and if you want to add that rotation to this as well, you can go to the properties, click on the tween, and have it rotate so that when it plays I can see that. Now the scenes will play in order, and if I want to get back to my first scene, I simply go to Window, Scene, and I can look at my multiple scenes. So now if I test my movie, I can go to Control, test the movie. I'll test it in a browser. There it is. And that's the basics of Flash Classic Tweening.